Welcome to the OwnersBox YouTube channel. Today, the NFL is back. Football is back. Football is not back on the field, but at least we're back to talking about it. It felt like it never ended, though, with free agency. Today, 3 players I'm selling before the NFL draft. Now, there's a few different reasons you'd be looking to sell somebody post-draft or results from the draft that might bring down the value of some players. The quarterback position, if there's a rookie quarterback being drafted, depending on the profile, Malik Willis type could eat into whatever team he goes to in terms of their running back efficiency and their running back touchdowns. Other ones, we're looking at rookies, especially from this wide receiver group this year, that could take some targets away from whatever players they have in the rotation currently. So let's get into these 3 players. Let's not waste any more time. My first one is from my favorite team, and he's one of my favorite players. It's Austin Ekeler of the Los Angeles Chargers. Ekeler had a fantastic 2021 season. He was the RB2 in PPR formats, had a really, really good year. You finally saw the touchdowns that we've been missing in his career. There's a few things that I'm going to go into why I'd be looking to sell him right now, and I think now is the perfect time to do it. So hang around. It might sound crazy, but I do think Ekeler is someone you can really maximize value on. So let's get into the Chargers and the running back room, which is completely barren. No one was added. Justin Jackson was probably the best second guy behind Ekeler this past season, and wasn't re-signed. He had a lot of injury history, so I can understand why the Chargers didn't want to bring him back. But it's Larry Roundtree and it's Joshua Kelly left, and the two of them combined for, I believe, less than 3 yards per carry in their career on all their touches. They have been terrible. I think they've had, I'm looking here, combined 180 in their careers and 3 yards per carry. So these two have been given the opportunity to prove themselves and haven't been able to do it, yet they still haven't brought a guy in. Here's what I see from this team in the draft. I see them spending, obviously not, I don't see them spending, their first round pick or even their third round pick, just because they made that trade for Khalil Mack. So I think they'll spend that third round pick on another position. But I'm looking at the 4th, 5th round for them to look for a running back, and not one that they're looking to develop or one that they think has upside but is going to take some time. They're looking for a guy that can make an impact immediately. I'm looking at Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati or Kyron Williams, who had a tough performance from the 40 perspective and at the combine, but he's proved himself at the college level. So there's pedigree there from these guys to make an impact right away. Some might like Brian Robinson. I have no interest in Brian Robinson. I don't think he's going to have any type of impact at the NFL level, but he could be a guy who has experience playing at Alabama in the SEC. So I think there's going to be someone they take in the draft that's going to have an impact right away and eat into some of these carries. The other thing that's important to me is Ekeler during last season spent a lot of time talking about how he wasn't sure he could handle the type of workload he was given last year. I mean, 300 touches a year for this guy just isn't sustainable. He's never was at that level before. So I think if they bring someone in, Staley's made it clear that's important to them. They haven't done it. I think they do it in the draft. If not, it could be a late free agency addition. It could be a guy like Melvin Gordon coming back. And I just don't think we're going to see that season that Ekeler had with 20 touchdowns and over 1,500 yards from scrimmage. I don't think we're going to see that next year. We may not see it again from him. So I'd be willing to move him right now before we find that guy. And his value is incredibly high. The second one, Zach Wilson, the quarterback for the New York Jets. This is more of your super flex, 2 QB leagues, of course. I think a lot of you playing Dynasty like me are dealing with that kind of format. Have a few things here. Wilson had a really, really tough year last year. There was a lot of different factors. He's young. He had a huge year in his 3rd season at BYU that kind of brought him to that 2nd overall pick. But my issue here is I think that people are incredibly high on this organization and the opportunity they have. Of course, 2 picks in the top 10 this year. I think it seems like a foregone conclusion that they're going to make an addition at the wide receiver position. That's what many, many people think here. I'm looking at Elijah Moore, who of course is, in a good spot to have a big year this year in his 2nd season if he's healthy. But I think we're putting too much faith in this organization that they're going to find the right guy and they're going to be able to get it done. The offensive line was one of the worst in football. I think they were 21st with PFF in their run blocking or their pass blocking grade, and then with Football Outsiders, 22nd in adjusted line yards. I think the thing here is we're making a prediction that they add a receiver in the draft, similar to, let's look at Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and this duo is going to make a serious impact right away. You might be thinking, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase was such a dynamic duo, and they didn't need great pass protection to be able to make it happen. So why can't Zach Wilson do it? Well, Zach Wilson is nowhere near the level of player that Joe Burrow is, especially when it comes to being under pressure. I'm looking at my numbers here again. We're looking at Burrow had the highest completion percentage and yards per attempt under pressure in 2021. He was unbelievably good, like maybe one of the best you'll ever see under pressure, especially in their rookie season. Wilson was last and second last in those respective categories. So if he does not have protection, I don't think it really matters who's out there running routes for him, even if it's a guy as good as Jamar Chase might be. And there are options of guys that I could see that potential with. Garrett Wilson seems to be a common player that people are looking to mock towards the Jets in those top 10 picks. I think the Jets would be better off spending one of these early picks, which they still could because they do have two, on a guy like Charles Cross, who's great in pass protection, or Ike Ekwonu, or any of these offensive linemen that people are seeing in the top 10. Because look at what the Chargers did with Justin Herbert. It worked out incredibly well drafting Rashawn Slater last year, and it moved the needle incredibly for their offensive line, amongst other additions that they made. But that could be the cornerstone guy. I think people are just way too high on where this organization can go, and we've seen it all before unfold from this team. There's been struggles from the GM position, no matter who's been there, of being able to draft quality talent and have them develop. It's just not I'm just not trusting a quarterback in the New York Jets at this point. That's really how I see things with the organization. You might decide to wait and sell after the draft because then they actually have that wide receiver drafted, but I would still be willing to do it right now as well. Now, last one for me is my guy, the guy that I absolutely loved last season, that Jared, who's no longer on the show, is back at school. He dogged me for amon-ra St. Brown as a wide receiver, or just a rookie in general, that I viewed as a must draft in rookie drafts last year. So in Dynasty, I do have him pretty much everywhere because I absolutely loved him. But I am worried. I'm not worried. I'm very excited about the stock that he seems to have in fantasy football and Dynasty fantasy football, and probably redraft leagues, considering the year he had. So two factors. One, to me, is TJ Hawkinson. All these big games from amon-ra St. Brown came when TJ Hawkinson was on the sidelines. When Hawkinson was playing, amon-ra St. Brown averaged 9.55 PPR fantasy points per game. Quite low, not going to cut it, right? Especially at the value he's at right now. But when TJ Hawkinson wasn't healthy, wasn't on the field, we're looking at 25.3 fantasy points per game. That's just skyrocketing. Now, those tougher games were early in the season, early in his career, and by the end of the year, we saw him in the backfield, we saw him in the slot, we saw him on the outside, we saw him everywhere for this team. Dan Campbell gave you plenty of exciting reasons to want to get behind this guy because he did these same things at USC. And I said it before last year that this is what he did at USC. They put him in a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different places on the field, and he was successful. But my thing is there's natural talent, but there's not natural athletic abilities. He's not a super athlete like your Deebo Samuel might be, who's playing even more into that role. So I'm worried that this team makes some investments at the wide receiver positions and at their other skill positions, mostly wide receiver because it's a barren wasteland behind amon-ra St. Brown. So I'm looking at I think they have four selections between picks 32 and 97. They, of course, have 5 picks. That's 5 picks in the top 100. This is a pretty deep wide receiver class, so I'm thinking they're going to make an addition at the wide receiver position, and it could be one in the first or second round that is going to be able to take targets away immediately. Now, do I think amon-ra St. Brown is going to turn into a fantasy irrelevant wide receiver as early as next year? No, but I think with his pure athletic ability and natural skills, there might be a possibility that in 2-3 years from now, he's just nowhere near the player he was this past year because of just how unique that situation was in Detroit with a utter lack of talent in the room all over the place. Now, I'm looking to sell him. I've been looking to sell him probably since the end of the season because I just think that things are going to be getting out of control with him, considering what we saw and how exciting all those different touches are. So look to make a move before the draft, see what you can get. I'm not saying that this guy is an absolute must sell. He's going to be, a tank. He's just going to tank. The rest of his stock is going to tank once the season starts. You can hang on to him. You could probably play. You're definitely be able to play him this year. I think he's still going to be a fantasy relevant guy, but this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time to look to trade him. So 3 guys, Austin Ekeler, amon-ra St. Brown, and Zach Wilson for you to sell before the NFL draft in your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. If you guys enjoyed the video, Be sure to let me know in the comments who you're selling, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm really excited to be back with some fantasy football content, and we'll have more for you after the draft. Let me know what you guys want to see. We'll, of course, get into some rookie drafts and some of the rookies I'd be looking to target this year. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.